It's 1 minute past 6. It's Tuesday evening on the first day of August. My name is Trevor Watkins, and I am bringing the show Outside the Box to you on Coker FM 97.8. Our people, our station. Yesterday, the 31st of July, was Milton Friedman's 105th birthday. Who the heck is Milton Friedman? I hear thousands of you ask. Well, he was a truly great American economist, won the Nobel Prize. He invented the phrase, "There is no such thing as a free lunch," commonly known as Tanstaffel. And few people in human history have contributed more to the achievement of human freedom simply through their ideas. Happy birthday, Uncle Milton. But today is the 1st of August. Today is the Bitcoin hard fork day. For those of you who are interested or own some Bitcoin. It was a day on which the price of Bitcoin could do one of three things. It could go down, it could stay the same, or it could go up. So far, the price seems to be holding, and my half Bitcoin is doing well. 6th of August is the 72nd anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. A day that changed the world in many ways, and which is also an unfortunate day for me. I sincerely hope I get through the 6th of August unscathed this year. And while we're looking at dates, the 8th of August is the Monaco vote in Parliament, motion of no confidence in the President. That might yet be a day that changes South Africa in many ways. I promise to tell you how it goes on my show next Tuesday, the 8th of August. Last Saturday, I spent a delightful day with two Coker FM listeners from Plettenberg Bay, Kevin and Nora. They put on an incredible spread for me, possibly the best breakfast I have ever enjoyed, in an utterly beautiful location overlooking the entire Plettenberg Bay. We had much in common. We talked almost non-stop from 9:30 until 4:30. For me, that is a huge pleasure to find somebody that I can interact with in an intelligent and polite environment. Nora suggested the topic for today's show. When vast numbers of unemployed people apply for every job, how can you guarantee a decent wage in the absence of stringent regulations? Thank you to them both for helping make this sometimes challenging job of being a radio presenter very worthwhile. So, the topic for today's show is minimum wage, maximum harm. I've referred to this topic several times in the past, but in passing. So on 28th of February, for example, in my show on unemployment, and on the 31st of January in my show on poverty, I raised the issue of the minimum wage. But it's a really important topic, and tonight it gets its very own slot, courtesy of Nora and Kevin. Well, minimum wages are all about working men. So, Working Man's Blues, sung by Bob Dylan, seemed like an appropriate song to play. Song in order to enjoy the beauty of his voice, but his music and lyrics are really very, very good and well worth the trouble. I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. You can phone into the show on 042 291 0003, and you can email us at onair@cokerfm.co.za. I'm afraid we don't have live streaming at the moment, so if you're listening, it's got to be on your radio. I welcome Afrikaans callers, and I would really like to hear from somebody in the Koker district who has a strong opinion on minimum wages. This is your opportunity to put that opinion on air. So as ever, I go to Wikipedia to get a few definitions of what we're talking about. And their definition of minimum wage, or rather their history of them, is as follows. Modern minimum wage laws were first passed in New Zealand and Australia in the 1890s. So much for solving the problems of employment in the sweatshops of Asia or the garment district of New York. It comes from those relatively mild and peaceful democracies down to the east. The movement for minimum wages was first motivated as a way to stop the exploitation of workers in sweatshops. We all know about those famous New Zealand sweatshops. By employers who were thought to have unfair bargaining power over them. Over time, minimum wages came to be seen as a way to help lower income families. Most countries had adopted or introduced minimum wage legislation by the end of the 20th century. Until the mid-1990s, however, a general consensus existed amongst economists, both conservative and liberal, that the minimum wage reduced employment, especially among younger and low-skill workers. In addition to the basic supply and demand intuition, there were a number of empirical studies that supported this view. For example, Grumlich in 1976 found that many of the benefits went to higher income families and that teenagers were made worse off by the unemployment associated with the minimum wage. In the mid-1990s, two economists, Card and Gruller, I think their names were, did come up with an alternative view of the effects of the minimum wage. And their point of view remains one alternative out there, although the majority of economists, if not the man in the street, still regard minimum wage as a bad idea. As an example, France has the rich Western world's highest wage floor, or minimum wage. at more than 60% of the median for adults, and a far bigger fraction of the typical wage for the young. So France has set their minimum wage really high, higher than the average wage for most people. This helps, actually I must correct that, higher than half of the average wage for most people. This helps explain why France also has shockingly high rates of youth unemployment. 26% of 15 to 24-year-olds in France are unemployed. That's a figure that sounds remarkably like the South African unemployment figure, which varies between about 26 and 40%, depending on what measure you use. So, in the light of his birthday yesterday, I'd like to introduce a few quotes from Milton Friedman, who had a lot to say about minimum wage. He says, many well-meaning people favor legal minimum wage rates in the mistaken belief that they help the poor. These people confuse wage rates with wage income. That's a really important point. The rate is not your income. The rate is simply a figure. Your income is what you actually get in the market.